Hello, class. Good day. Welcome to our STS class. And we are in week 3 and 4, part 3 topic, the historical antecedents of science and technology. So I hope you're done watching the part 1 and part 2 of this topic. So we will proceed with the part 3. So for this topic, we are going to actually talk about intellectual revolutions. So if you can remember, in our previous topic before, that science can agree in the past or can agree with what we believe in the past and can also disagree with it. So we will learn in this topic what are those things that are true before that are still true now and what are true before that is not accepted now. So we'll see what's first. So here are some things that actually the people in the past believe. So it happened around 15th century, wherein in the past they believe that Earth is stationary sphere at the center of heaven. Its habitable surface is a flat circle with Jerusalem at its center. So they believe before that Earth, yes, when you say stationary, it means that it's not moving. So they believe that it's just a circle and it's not moving. And they also believe that it's the center of the heaven. So what they believed before, do you still, or I would like to ask you, is that still true now? So that's how we'll see if you're going to agree with that. Kay basin di ay no, basin pa lang, basin og kamo di ay nagtuupod nga this is still true. Okay, so they also believe that stars and planet are made up of perfect substance called ether, a fifth heavenly element. And another one is that they believe that moon, sun, and stars are held in place by invisible crystalline spheres. Okay, so what about it's as if they're held in place by an invisible crystalline. Okay, so that's how they believe before, and that's how they think that the moon, star, and the sun are in place in the heavenlies by something that is holding them mo nang dili siya matagak or they're not falling here on earth. They're just above and they're in place there by something that is invisible. Right. So we're actually going to look back uh, in the 15th century. Okay, so there's actually the beginning of modern astronomy, and we will learn about the Copernican revolution. However, before going there, let's look into what actually happened in the 15th century. So, in the time of about 1453, the Ottoman Turks overran Constantinople. Okay, Constantinople. Sorry. So, and then Romans flee west into Europe and take books with them. So this is also the end of the Middle Age. So I know that you already know Middle Age because we already talked about that in a previous lecture. So most people cannot read or write during this time, and they basically believe whatever the Bible is saying. Not that I'm saying that's bad, but mura sila, they don't have other references unlike what we have now that we actually have a lot of references that we can base on. But before, there's only few references that they have, and one thing that they trusted the most is the Bible, and then other resources that are only few. However, unlike us again here in the present age, that it's it's a lot and it's already very much available unlike sa unang nga panahon nga only few can read and only few has also the access of the materials. Okay, all right, so we're actually going to look into the three different models of the universe uh in what they believed before. Okay, so the first one is actually geocentric model. Okay, from the word geo, that's earth, and then centric, that's center, of course. So this model actually supported the belief that the earth is the center of the universe. This is actually following what Aristotle is teaching before. Okay, so if you're going to see this model here, what we have is the earth as the center, and then they believe that the planets, the sun, the moon, and the are surrounding the earth, and then the earth is the center of the universe. Okay. So I would like to ask, is this true? Or yes, it's true before, but is this true now? So you can answer of that. Okay. So based on what you actually believe and what you have heard and what is true now. Okay. So the second model following geocentric model is the Ptolemaic model. Okay. So Ptolemaic model, in this model, it's still, okay, believe anchored, okay? It's still anchored in the theory of geocentric model. However, there is some addition to that, okay? So it's stated that the Earth was in the center of the universe, and that's the same with geocentric model. So, but the difference is the moons and planets rotated in circle as they went around Earth. So now, instead of being stationary, so ang different from your geocentric, that instead of your moon, sun, planet, and stars surrounding your Earth and they're just stationary, they're just being held there. The difference with your Ptolemaic model is that now your moon and planets are actually moving. So it's like they're rotating as they revolve around the Earth. But still the same with geocentric, that it's the Earth that is the center of the universe. Okay, so that's how they believe in this model. Looking at this illustration, you can see in this illustration, you can see that it's the same with geocentric, that the Earth is the center of the universe. However, again, the difference they have with your geocentric and Ptolemaic is that in Ptolemaic, your moon, your planets, your sun, your stars are actually rotating. Okay, they are moving. Okay, this one. Okay, if you can see this one, they're actually rotating, moving as they revolve around the Earth. Okay, so that's the major difference that your Ptolemaic and your geometric model has, right? Right. So the first person to come into picture is Nicholas Copernicus. Okay. So Nicholas Copernicus, he existed here on Earth around 1473 to 1543. Okay. So who is Nicholas Copernicus? He is actually a Polish Catholic cleric. Okay, so if you're a Catholic, you know what's a cleric, right? So what he did in the past is that he observed the night sky from an observation tower. So an observation tower before was a frequent sight, okay, kay they're so much interested in astronomy. So what he did is that he wanted to solve the problem with calendar. Okay, so there was a problem with calendar. Probably they already have set probably they have set dates before, but because it's not probably widely accepted yet, so it's still a problem. So he was trying to actually solve that problem or that challenge. And because of his constant observation, what he found out and suggested is that the sun-centered universe, and he published this output in his book De Revolutionibus. Okay, so he published that work there, and it was not published until the year he died. Okay, so why was it not published until nganong naghulat pa man? Okay, why did it wait until he died? Because during this time, guys, his theory was strange. Okay, his theory was strange. What he was saying is actually new or foreign, okay, or an alien, okay? Because for a long time, what they believe, the people in his time, what they believe is that it's the Earth that is the center of the universe. Okay, that's why Nicholas Copernicus, his output was not published until he died. So because of the output of Nicholas Copernicus, there's the third model named Copernican model. Okay, so Copernican from the word Copernicus, from the name Nicholas Copernicus. Okay, so that's why we have Copernican model. So what is a Copernican model? A Copernican model believe that it's actually heliocentric. Okay, helio from the word light or sun, and then centric, center. So it is it believes, kaning Copernican model, this Copernican model believes that it's the sun that is the center of the universe. So what we have now, you see, it's a revolution. It's a series, okay, or it's a, what you call this, progress, okay. So because of course, it's almost, okay, almost near to the truth, near to the truth, to what we believe at present. Okay, so in his work De Revolutionibus Orbium Celestium, okay, so he published his work there. Okay, his idea was actually opposed to that of the Catholic Church. Again, because the Catholic Church before, they believe that it's the um earth, that the sun, that is the center of the universe. Um yeah, and then so looking at this model, you will see that here is the sun, and then the sun is actually at the center of the universe, Copernicus said. And then surrounding the sun are your planets, and then the moon and the stars. Okay, but however, Copernicus has no clue as to how or what is actually the distance of the stars and from each other or from the sun. Okay, so he has no clue as to how far they are. Okay, so it's one thing that is um also a gap for his theory. The Copernican model explained the following. Okay, so in his model, he explained that the Earth's rotation caused daily motion from east to west. Okay, so if you are familiar with, if you know, diba guys, it's the, our sun rises from the east and it sets on the west. So and Mercury and Venus were inferior planets, which explained why they're always seen near the sun. So and then we will learn later on what's inferior and what's superior, okay? And then the sun's annual motion along the ecliptic was caused by Earth's orbital motion. So this was actually a difficult theory to accept. And then there was a retrograde motion, and he said that it was a natural phenomenon, as that one planet passing another as they orbited the sun. So, ang pasabot sa retrograde, okay, what we mean actually by retrograde is that, sorry, is that there was one planet, okay, faster, moving faster than the other. That's why it overtakes. Okay, so it overtakes in the orbiting of the sun. So that's a retrograde motion for the Copernican model. So in Copernican model, so if this is your sun, so it is thought that, or it is believed that the Venus and Mercury is is an inferior planet. That is why it's seen near the sun, and your superior planet are actually farther away from your sun. So that's basically how it means, or what it means about superior and inferior planet. Now in this illustration, this actually explains about the retrograde motion. Okay, retrograde motion, wherein as a planet orbits around the sun, there's also another planet which orbits faster than the other. Okay, so what it means is that as a faster moving planet overtakes and passes a slower moving superior planet, the superior planet appears to move backward as you pass by it. So it's just like your, if you can remember, guys, or if you are, when you're traveling, and then, example, you're riding on a bus and then you overtakes a motorcycle. So once the bus actually overtakes the motorcycle, looking back at that motorcycle, you will see that it looks as if it's moving backward. So that's retrograde motion explained according to the movement of your planet. So in Copernican model, why people during their time actually find it hard to believe the Copernican model? Okay, so the first, because Ptolemy's model had worked for about 1,500 years. Okay, so the geocentric model and then the Ptolemaic model, they're almost the same. They are just different in the movement of your sun, moon, and stars and planets. But yeah, because it has been like that for about 1,500 years, Syempre guys, if you believe such thing for a long time, it would be hard for you to believe another one or a new one. Okay? And then they might it might sound ridiculous for them because again, for a long time, they believe that it's the earth that is the center of the universe. And they also strongly um cling on to the belief that it's the Ptolemaic model that is true because it provided a metaphor of the earth and the humans living at the center of God's creation. So because it was mentioned that the earth was um the God's creation, and of course human are God's creation, so syempre they would believe that we're the center of the universe, it's us. Okay, so probably it's also pride, one thing that they would also I would probably guess or assume that it's also pride because hey, we're God's creation and we should be the center of the universe. Okay, so they might believe about that. And also it was hard for them to believe about the Copernican model because Copernicus was not able to prove that the earth orbited around the sun, so it was hard for him to prove of that because that's still new, and he still needs to gather evidences about his theory. Okay, and then because of that, Copernican model did not also predict the position of the planets any better than Ptolemaic model or Ptolemy's model. Okay, so since Ptolemy's model, it has been working for about 1,500 years already, so you would know nga it's already established than the Copernican model during that time because the Copernican model is still an infant na theory during that time. However, comparing that to your um Ptolemaic model, so it's more established. So again, guys, it would be hard for you to believe in something new comparing to what you have believed for a long time. Okay, so that's why the Copernican model before was not really popular because they do not believe in that. So in the Copernican model as well, it was aesthetically more pleasing. So in the model, there's more aesthetic value to that, and it was more simple. Of course, one element. It's just the sun. That is the center of the universe, and then it also explained observed complex motion as naturally occurring, such as your retrograde motion. So it says there that it's a natural phenomenon that a superior planet would appear nearer to the sun, and then sorry, inferior planet would appear near to the sun, and then there's also superior planet, and then there's also a planet moving faster than another, so that's the retrograde. So yeah, that's how the Copernican model was actually explained before. So that was the event that actually happened during the time of Copernicus. So what happened after that? Okay, so we'll see what's next to the Copernican revolution. So we have here another man came into picture. Okay, so we have here Galileo Galilei. So Galileo Galilei, have you heard about Galileo? Galileo Galilei? So if you have not heard about Galileo Galilei, so at least no, you should have heard about the song Galileo. Charot. Okay, so I'm just kidding because I know you're already kind of bored listening to me. But anyway, we have here Galileo Galilei. So who is Galileo Galilei? He was actually an Italian mathematician and philosopher. Okay, so he was the first to study the sky with a telescope. Okay, telescope. He used the telescope upon studying the sky. And he was the first, no, no, not the first, but he was an Italian physicist and astronomer. And he was born in Pisa last February 15, 1564. Okay, that was his um birth, all right? So he has a father. His father's name was Vincenzo Galilei, and he was a well-known musician. So Galileo's father, he wanted Galileo to be a doctor. So of course, probably as a what do you call this? An obedient son, Galileo was sent to the University of Pisa to study medicine. But while he was still studying in the university, he found out that he actually has a talent in mathematics. Okay, so he discovered there, oh, I am actually interested in mathematics than medicine. Okay, so it's not uncommon, guys. Like you might be wondering, huh, kanang, like for instance, you might be looking down on students who are shifties or who are transferees. No, it's a matter of what interests you the most. Okay, so like for instance, Galileo, he actually entered the university for the purpose of being for studying medicine, but eventually he actually discovered that he was more talented in mathematics. So it's not wrong to shift courses, guys, if you think it's not suited for you. Okay, then rather than suffer later kay gipugos gyud nato, we actually force things to work even if it doesn't work our way. Okay, so what happened is that he was able to persuade. So he convinced his father to allow him to leave the university and become a tutor in mathematics. So later, of course, he was allowed by his father. So eventually, he became a professor of mathematics. So that was Galileo Galilei. So to continue, what happened is that in 1609, Galileo actually heard about the invention of a spyglass. Okay, so familiar mo nang sa detective guys nga there's a magnifying glass that's actually what do you call this, associated, a magnifying glass was actually associated in detective movies or novels like that, because of course you're going to use those things to look for evidences that are not probably not visible with your naked eye or hard to see with your naked eye. All right. So because of this, he actually became interested in that. Okay. So this device, this spyglass device, actually made objects appear closer. Okay. Those objects that are from a distant, okay, from far away, it became closer, or those smaller became bigger, like that. Okay. So with his knowledge in mathematics and with his technical skills, he actually improved the spyglass. Okay, so and he build or improve it, become making it into a telescope, and then he used it for astronomy. Okay, so see it was Galileo Galilei, guys, credited for the invention of the telescope, right? So later, on the same year, he became the first person to look at the moon through the telescope and make his first astronomy discovery. And then his discovery was actually this one. He found that the moon was actually not smooth, but it was mountainous and pitted, just like the Earth. Okay, so mountainous, so naa siya yung mga bundok-bundok, pitted, nasa siya yung mga busot-buslot. So, di ba guys, if you're actually going to look at the moon from afar, so of course from here, with just your naked eye, you would see the moon as, especially in full moon, you would see it from above, like, oh, it's so flawless, it's so clear, it's so white, it's so smooth, like that. But with his new toy, okay, so let's call that a new toy for Galileo, his telescope. So with that, he actually was able to see that, oh my gosh, really, it's not really that smooth. It's actually mountainous and pitted, just like the Earth. So there are, it's the same, guys, with your picture, okay, like, or from afar, girls from afar, they appear to be, wow, so perfect, so smooth, so poreless and flawless, and then eventually pag wala on ang makeup, or in a picture pag wala on ang filter, na yung mga bugas-bugas, and buslot-buslot, not that I am saying that it's bad, because I too have that, guys, ha. Kani inyo nakita karon nga mga flawless skin ako, filter lamang yan. Okay? So so yeah, okay? So not that I'm saying it's bad, it's still perfect. The moon still looks perfect, but yeah, it has its flaws. Okay? So kana pagtangtangon di ay paglantaw na din siya sa dool. Girls, paglantaw na din ta sa dool kay makita na din niya ang guys kay taas din kay standard morsag kuan, morsag ang safeguard wala gisabon sa lubot unya gisabon sad sa nawong. Kailan patay recorded ra ba ni makita sa TV. But anyway, yeah, that's one of his first discoveries using the telescope. So with that, imagine how he was so interested with telescope, guys. No, kay, it was as if imagine yourself having your first cell phone, okay? First ever cell phone. So you would know, you would be very excited in exploring what you can discover and what you can use it for. So it's also the same with Galileo. With his telescope, he was so excited as to what he will be discovering more using that material. Okay, so he subsequently used his newly invented and improved telescope to discover actually four more moons circling around Jupiter, and then he also studied Saturn, and he observed the phases of the of Venus, and he actually found the sunspots in on the sun. Okay, so there are actually sunspots in the sun, like itong mga lingin-lingin, yeah, okay. So yeah, imagine how excited he was using his telescope. Okay, it's as if you have found your toy. Okay, so that's what happened for Galileo. So let's see in the next slide the illustration of the summary of his discoveries. So here are the four major discoveries made by Galileo using his telescope. So the first one, he actually saw that the moon the moon it is mountainous and pitted. So it has yeah, na siya mga bundok-bundok. It has also kanang busot-buslot like that. Okay, so it's not actually smooth. Uh it's flawed, but it's perfect. Okay. He also realized that the Venus had phases, which meant that it orbited around the sun. Okay. So, what does this mean? He noticed that when you say it has phases, of course, you would observe, for example, guys, syempre, if it's turning or if it's orbiting, like that, and then it's revolving around the sun. So once you observe that Venus, so if it has orbited, so pasabot, you would not see the same thing always. Okay, so meaning probably on his first observation, lahi ang nakita, it's different. And then another observation he made, lahi na po yung nakita. So that here he realizes that there are phases of your Venus, so it means that it's actually orbiting, it's moving. Okay, he also saw that there are moons. Okay. Of Jupiter. So not just one, but there's actually four that he discovered. And then he also saw sunspots on the sun. Okay. So which made him later on blind. Okay, so imagine guys, us, okay, looking directly at the sun, unaided with sunglasses, it's very painful in our eyes. Okay, so imagine the pain that actually it did to Galileo, that he saw the sun nearer, and then of course with the use of his telescope nearer jud ang sun, so that means it's the impact would be also more extreme than what we experience looking at the sun directly with our naked eyes. So eventually it made him blind. Probably he is just so curious that he cannot stop. So eventually it's his body that made him stop because he was blind. He cannot do anything, he cannot observe something because wala naman siya makita. Okay? Alright. So, for Galileo's life, upon his discoveries, upon his observations, okay, so let's also look what actually happened to Galileo during his time. Okay, so it's still the same, guys. I think it's even much difficult for Galileo during his time than Copernicus, but I think it's just the same. But probably yeah, because again, the Catholic Church before it was so powerful, okay, during his time and influential, right? So it's as if that their words are law and their words are the authority. Okay, it's absolute power. Okay, so nothing's wrong with them like that. Okay, so those Catholic Church, of course, the Catholic Church before, it strongly supported the theory of geocentric, okay, meaning that the Earth is the center of the universe. However, um, in Galileo's work, okay, he actually began publishing papers of his discoveries in astronomy and his belief. Okay, so he published works and then and his observations and then his belief as well that it's heliocentric, okay, which supports heliocentric belief, okay, which means that it's the sun that is the center of the universe. So meaning it's the same with Copernicus. He agrees with Copernicus. So with that, again with that, because it's opposed to what the Catholic Church believed, he was called to Rome. Ipatawag siya, guys, and to answer some charges that actually was brought against him by the Inquisition. So this Inquisition now is the legal body of the Catholic Church. So it's like the probably the lawyers like that of the Catholic Church. So he was brought there to answer some of his charges. Okay, to answer some of the charges that was kanang brought to him. Okay, so in 1616, okay, Galileo was actually accused of being heretic. Okay, kanang heretic, guys, it means that you're actually blasphemous, okay, or you're talking about something that is against the church, and you're actually against God and against its people like that. So he was accused of being heretic who opposed church teachings. Okay, so heresy during his time, actually, guys, was a serious crime. Okay, it's a very serious crime. It's a heavy crime in which people can sometimes be sentenced to death. Okay, so that's what happened to Galileo in 1616. Okay, so let's continue in the next slide. So for the first charge, guys, of heresy charged to Galileo, he was actually cleared of the charges of heresy. Okay, so he was acquitted. Okay, he was acquitted with the charges, but he was told that, okay, so Galileo, you're actually not guilty, you're innocent. So we're going to acquit you. So what is the condition is that he will no longer tell the public, okay, or he will no longer publish his work or tell the public about his belief that the earth is moving around the sun, that he should not be saying, or that he should not be publishing, ana basta dili, he should stop in making people believe that it's actually the sun that is the center of the universe. Okay, so after he was being acquitted, guys, he continued. Okay, he was found not guilty, but on the condition that he will stop. Pero what happened? Did he stop? He actually continued his study. He continued the study of astronomy and become more and more convinced that all planets actually revolve around the sun. So after he was being, di ba sometimes, guys, for instance, okay, in my case, for instance, if I was actually being called for these things like, hey, you should stop doing this and that, out of fear, probably I would be stopping. But look at Galileo. He's continued studying, and after that, he was even more convinced. He was even more convinced that, oh no, what I actually believe is actually true, because the planets are actually revolving around the sun. Sige na kung actually, guys, I'm sorry about that. All right. So yeah, and then in 1632, that was 1616, the first charge of heresy. So in 1632, he published a book that stated, among other things, that the heliocentric theory of Copernicus was correct. So he published another work agreeing, okay, ning second demotion siya, guys, to the work of Copernicus. So of course, again, that was opposed to the teaching of the church. So Galileo was once again called before the Inquisition, the legal body of the Catholic Church. Ipatawag ni sad siya. He was called. Okay, here you go again. We mentioned you should not tell anything about your belief anymore, but here you go. You even publish a book. So this time, he was found guilty of heresy. So he was guilty of heresy. Second time that he was charged of heresy, he was guilty of it. So because of that, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1633. A year after he published his book, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. But of course, guys, he was already old. Okay, so because of his age and his poor health, he was actually allowed to serve his imprisonment under house arrest. Okay, so instead of being in jail, he was allowed to be under house arrest. So meaning he was in prison but in his house. Okay, so he's not allowed to go out. So Galileo died on January 8, 1642. That's about a decade after he published his book saying that he agreed with Copernicus that that the sun was actually the center of the universe. Okay, so he died 1642. Now look at this. Now look at this. Okay. Around 1992, guys. So pila man na. How many years would pass? Around probably almost 300 years after. Okay, okay, 16, 19 minus 16. So 300, about almost 300 or 200 plus years. The church officially and publicly forgave Galileo for his crime. I really find this funny. Okay. Funny because for what we believe at present, guys, right? I don't know if you agree with me. Okay, you might have the same thought with the people in the 15th century. I don't know. But for what we believe now, and for what is the study made by our physicists and astrologer, those people study astronomy, it was syempre, of course, we have sophisticated things already, and sophisticated materials and equipment already that we can use to actually look at the outer space. So of course we can already prove that the sun is actually the center of the, is it the universe? Is it the center of the universe? It's the center of the solar system, our solar system. Okay. So Copernicus and Galileo, they're actually true in saying that it's the sun that is the center, but not in the universe. Okay. Of course, guys, the universe is so vast, so big, so wide. Okay. So what is true is that the sun is the center of the um solar system. Okay, our solar system. So notice that their theory is actually true, but funny that it was Galileo who is forgiven for a thing that is actually true. Kabantay mo ni guys kung kinsa tong nakasala siya pod ang mopasaylo. Familiar ni nga scenario? Are you familiar with this one? Sounds like girls. Ang boys and then the girls, ang girl ang nakasala pero siya pa yung makapasaylo. Siya pa yung ingon sa boy nga, "Pakay nagsorry. Siya dito yung nakasala." Bitaw guys, that is just, wala lang. I just find it funny. Anyway, so much more of that. So guys, next in the picture is Charles Darwin. All right. So who is Charles Darwin? Charles Darwin, I think he is familiar with you. He was born on February 12, 1809. And Charles Darwin was born in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, England, as a son of a well-to-do physician. Okay, so he was a son of a doctor. So he was said to be shy yet mischievous. So Darwin's mother died on July 15, 1817. So he was only 8 that time. So in September 1818, so about 9 years after he was born, Darwin attended Shrewsbury Grammar School along with Erasmus. Okay, so this one is actually run by the Reverend Samuel Butler. Okay, so the focus of their study was Greek and Roman grammar and reading. Okay, so he joined this class for the purpose of learning reading and grammar. Okay, so he did not do well in school. So imagine, guys, Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin na na. but he has a record of not doing well in school. So we can still, if you have that record of not doing well in school, just like Charles Darwin, you can still be great. Okay, just do not give up. All right. So he did not do well in school, and on June 17, 1825, he was removed because of bad grades. Okay. So let's not be discouraged, all right? We can still be Charles Darwin, okay? Because of this, he spent the summer working in his dad's medical practice, okay? So because of that, walang siya na eskwela. So he nag-sidekick siguro na siya siyang papa, okay? So he tried to yeah, spend summer, nag-summer job probably or whatever in his dad's place. So Darwin, so after probably he was doing summer work at his dad's place, he was sent by his father to study medicine at Edinburgh University in Scotland. Okay, so okay, go then to Edinburgh. Okay, he was kicked out because of his bad grade. So his father sent him to another university. However, Darwin was horrified of the sight by the sight of surgery without anesthesia. Imagine, guys, the sight of surgery without anesthesia, how painful it would be without anesthesia. Mhm. Imagine probably those people that underwent surgery without anesthesia might be screaming so loud, and that made Darwin horrified by the sight of it. So he, after that, discontinued his studies. Okay, so he only studied for about 2 years. So guys, look, he was kicked out for bad grade, and then he was kicked out for bad grade, and then he went to medicine. He discontinued. So more like a not so remarkable during his young years. All right. So Darwin was accepted in Christ College at Cambridge in October 1827. So another school he went to another school, but he lacked true interest in theology. So instead, wala na sad siya wala siya ning padayon dito, siya ni pursue. So instead, he collected beetles and studied them. Okay, so probably you might um when you were in his time, you might not look at Darwin as something that is so incredible, because after being kicked out at school for having bad grades and for stopping his medicine, and then not pursuing theology, you might look at him as something that's so like probably walay direction, no direction in life, like that. So especially if he's collecting beetles, so you might be thinking, nabuang naman siguro na siya, he's crazy, he's like that. So, but his first work in science, okay, began with a geologic field trip led by English geologist Adam Sedgwick. Okay, so probably with his interest in these things like these beetles, he joined in a geologic field trip, okay, by this English geologist. So with the Scottish zoologist this time, who is Robert Grant, he actually introduced Darwin to the evolutionary ideas of the French naturalist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. So si Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, he's the first one to thought of evolution of life from simple form. So it was Jean Baptiste Lamarck that not first, but um probably not the first, but earlier than Darwin, who first thought that see, probably life actually evolves from something that is simpler, and then eventually it becomes complex, like humans, for instance. Okay, so that's the escapades of adventures of Darwin before going properly to science. So Darwin, with his newfound interest in what do you call this, in natural science, okay, he joined the Beagle voyage. So it happened in December of 1831, wherein the HMS Beagle left Plymouth Harbor. So it's actually a 5-year voyage of scientific exploration. So Darwin, he joined the ship's naturalist. And then apart from seasickness and infections, so sa iyahang in his in the voyage, no, aside from being seasick and having infections, he was able to come with a clear realization of the earth's antiquity, okay, or the antiquity of the earth, meaning unsa ka karaan, okay, unsa ka classic ang earth, and the long ages through which life had to develop. Okay, so that's where he actually realized, oh, the earth is really old, and it's classic, and then life forms throughout time. Okay, life actually develops throughout time. We have here the Galapagos giant tortoise. So this one is also included, guys, in Charles Darwin's work. Okay, so the Galapagos giant tortoise, in his discovery, he mentioned that Galapagos actually had a trait that is developed with the type of environment that they lived in. Okay, so they have an adaptation that is reflected in their probably in their physical structure. Okay, for instance, he said that tortoise that are living on ground and feeding on short plants, have more rounded shells and shorter necks. Of course, shorter necks kay easy access naman nila ang plants that they eat. Okay, they can easily access the plant that they eat in the ground, so there's no need for their necks to be long. Ana. However, there are some tortoise with different environment again and different probably eating habits, and so there's also different structure for them. So that's the Galapagos giant tortoise recorded in Charles Darwin's output. Okay. All right. So we have here Darwin's finches. Okay. So in Darwin's finches here, this is also found in Darwin's work. He explained that um one species, although they're the same, they can actually change into something else. They can change their trait to maximize adaptation and to probably accommodate change like that. So he said that it's a different it's a different type of species because there's also a different type of environment found in the area. Okay. So this now, with the exploration of Charles Darwin, he actually made a theory of natural selection. Okay, so what did he discover? Okay, so for instance, while there were many unusual animals on the Galapagos Island, Darwin noticed that there are groups. Okay, there are groups of birds. They are famously called Darwin's finches. So which were similar but divided into 14 species. So none of the 14 species actually existed in the mainland. So Darwin believed that these birds found in the island was actually uh, there for the island seeking food. So therefore, they had a common ancestor. Okay, so those birds that were there, they were not there before, but they came there to seek food. So he believed that they had a common ancestor which was similar with the mainland, but their descendants, so meaning eventually after some time the descendants differentiated, nalahi siya based on the adaptation to different natural conditions. Okay, so it changes it depends on what is the environmental condition, like for instance availability of food, predators, prey, climate, and eventually with those conditions, it eventually allows your species to evolve into a separate species. Okay, so for instance, guys, for example, there are a group of birds from the mainland, the same with the mainland, and then they flew to the island, and then they stayed there. So they were looking for food, and when they stayed there, because of different conditions, again mentioned here, so they develop a trait that allows them to survive and adapt to that change of condition or different conditions. Okay, so he noticed that those 14 different species, they have different unique beaks, okay, kanang yung sungo, okay? So they are tailored to specific diets. For instance, the warbler finch, it has a sharp and pointy beaks because it eats insect in the trees. So para grass sa bird ang imong insects, it has to be pointy and sharp, okay? So but another type of finch has a large stout large and stout beak, okay, that actually allows them to eat seeds. Of course the seeds are bigger man than your worms, so or insects. So seeds and nuts were too big for other species, so that's why it's also different. Their beaks are also different to pattern the diets that they have, okay. So of course to accommodate their diet, so they develop, probably guys, gagmay ra dyan is like big before, but because their diets were seeds and nuts, so eventually their beaks develop into something that is large and stout to make them able to eat their preferred diet. Okay, so he also could identify the origin of giant tortoises, okay, based on the patterns of their shells. So he can see, of course, they spend a lot of time there, so he can observe that. And then he concluded with all those what do you call this observations, he concluded that creatures adapted themselves to different ways. So different ways of life based on the condition of the environment, and the fittest, those that are the fittest of them will survive and procreate. So meaning those sorry, I'll give the explanation later. So he then realized that such natural selection explains the process of evolution. So unsay example, okay, for instance, there are, for example, group of birds, okay. So the group of birds, these are only the available nga diet, okay. So some would adapt, okay, would change to adapt the varied, okay, or the different condition. So those that were able to adapt and those that are fit, okay, meaning they were able to survive. So, although, sorry, those that are fittest, okay? So, meaning, fittest, guys, kanang siya ang pinaka-healthy, siya ang pinaka-kusgan, siya tanda na will then survive and procreate. So, meaning, makasurvive siya and makareproduce siya. So, therefore, katong wala, dili fit, and wala ni-adapt sa change, will die. So, they will be gone. And then, katong fit will survive and managhan. Okay? So, eventually, he then explained that it was natural selection. Okay, natural selection because of the natural condition of the environment, and then because of that, there's the evolution. Okay, so your species will change according to what is the type of condition the environment has. So also, Darwin developed the theory of evolution. Okay, so in this theory, I think you're familiar with this one already. So the evolution concept refers to the belief of the existing plants and animals are developed actually by a slow process or a process of slow, continuous change from previously existing forms. So meaning, um, the changes doesn't happen overnight, guys. It doesn't have happen to for about 10 years or what. It happened over a long period of time. Okay, so there's a change that actually happens, but it happened over a long period of time. So organic evolution, what this organic evolution means, okay? It's opposite, okay? It does not agree with the theory of creation, because the theory of creation believes that each individual is already an individual species and it has an unchangeable form. However, kining organic evolution, it envisions life, okay? It believes that life as having its beginning in a simple mass. So it believes na life actually started with a simple mass, and probably it started out in the sea because most part of the earth is covered with water. So probably it started out in the sea, from which katong simple mass, from which over the course of time arose all living forms, okay, from which that simple mass, it develops, and then it evolves, and then from then on, that's where all life forms begin, or all life forms actually arose from. So dito siya nag-develop dayon. Okay, then eventually naglaylay na lang din sila somewhere else. So that's organic evolution. It talks about actually the start of life. Ang the inorganic evolution, however, on the other hand, is different. It is concerned with the physical universe from unorganized matter. So like the universe, how it started, dili siya ing ani that we have now, that is it's arranged or like that. It actually I think it believes in the Big Bang theory nga kanang there's the collision of the what you call this kanang meteors, and then the form then of the universe, like that. So organic evolution, it talks about the evolution of life, and then the inorganic evolution, it talks about the universe or the physical, okay, which is the physical universe, or the including the earth, and then the moon, the stars, the planets, that is found in the outer space. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. So Charles Darwin, guys, in his later years, okay, so in his later years, he was born in on February 12, 1809, and he actually died April 19, 1882. So in his most of his time na dayon, guys, after the voyage, okay, after the voyage, Charles Darwin remained ill most of his life. After that, he never traveled abroad. He may have suffered from Chagas disease on September 7, 1881. Okay, a year after that, or not more than a year gani, he died after. So Darwin finished his final will in December 15, 1881, and then he started feeling a strong chest pains, probably it was heart attack or whatever, and then he had violent seizures and heart troubles. So the doctor was called on April 18, and left the next day saying that Darwin was fine, but later that day he suffered from more violent attack, and then he died a day after, April 19 na yun. Okay? So Darwin died 4 p.m. on April 19, and then on April 26, 1882, he was buried even without at Westminster. So next to his friend Sir John Herschel, okay, an astronomer, okay, and then about 20 feet from Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, ironically, this was the only honor he received from the British government under Queen Victoria, who were against Darwinism. Okay, probably Queen Victoria was more on a believer of the creation, because Darwin's theory was not, it was opposed to the theory of creation. Okay, he was more into, of course, evolution, so it was different. Okay, it was not the same with the creation. So we can see here there's are some books that was published by Charles Darwin. So you can, if you're interested, you can search this one on the internet. But one of the most, okay, one of the most notable, or for me, one of the most what do you call this, famous for his work is The Origin of Species. Okay, this one. Okay, it actually talks about evolution. But nonetheless, these are all his some. These are some of his published works, and you can find this on the internet if you're interested. So we have here another person in the name of Sigmund Freud. He existed here on Earth 1856 to in the year 1856 to 1939. So this is Sigmund Freud. So who is Sigmund Freud na pod? He's actually different, guys. This is not related to evolution or whatever. So Sigmund Freud, the Freudian revolution. He's an Austrian doctor. So his contribution is more into psychology. Okay, psychology. He was the founding father of psychoanalysis. All right. So and treat it's actually a method for treating mental illness, and he developed a theory which explains human behavior. So like Marx, he's a determinist, and people he believed, okay, Sigmund Freud believed that people determined by their instinct. Okay, so one of the instincts, okay, one of the instincts that we actually have for human are or is the sex or libido. Okay, so naagit tay mga urges nga ingani. Okay, you might not agree on this one. Some might say, "Mom, I'm not like that. I'm conservative like that." But you know what? This is an instinct and it has within us. But I'm not saying na because we have that instinct, hala, mura na lang sa tag-iring og iro, like dogs and cats there, that we can just do it anywhere and with everyone or anyone. Not like that, guys. We're different with them because we are, of course, rational beings. Okay? When you say rational beings, we are thinking beings. We do not just go with our instincts. Okay? Those people that just go with their instincts and not with their minds, they're they're similar to animals, ana. So kana siya ha. So for Sigmund Freud, guys, Freud he has this unconscious mind. He studied or he have this theory about the unconscious mind. So we have here id. Id. We call that id. What is id? The id is the raw instincts, okay? The raw, atong pure unconscious part of the mind. Okay. So the pure, raw, unconscious part of the mind, this part of the mind actually seeks us to bring pleasure or happiness. Okay. Or pleasure. So primitive parts of our personality, including aggression and sexual drives. Okay. That's part of our id. Okay. Kanang tong innate na to nga instinct. We have that instinct na we wanted to feel pleasure. We wanted to feel happiness. We wanted to feel um kana kanang murag ato ang kuan ba, innate na to na siya. Okay, so that's actually in our unconscious mind. So example of that is aggression. Kanang uban nga kanang aggressive sila, especially um if they find pleasure in that. God, and sexual drives. So those are included. Okay, example. Another one next to id is your ego. So the ego is the manager of the id. Okay, siya ang mag-tame. So the manager of the id that sublimates the instinct. Okay, so murag iyahang tone down, iyang ipalubong or iyang ipailalom o na. Okay, so the conscious part of the mind. Okay, this is the conscious part of the mind, the rational self. The rational self, kanang rational guys sa thinking, okay? So it decides what action to take. So kana imong ego, according to Freud, Sigmund Freud, this is the part of you that decides what action to take for positive means and what to do based on what is believed is the right thing to do. And it is aware of the reality. So mana imuhang ego. So rather kanang ego bitaw nimo guys, kanang siya ang mag-dictate. This is siya ang mag-identify which is right and which is wrong and which is the right thing to do. Okay? Dili lang taman sa right and wrong, but even up to what is the right thing to do. Okay? It doesn't make a difference, guys. It doesn't make a difference if you just know what is right and wrong. Unya, imo ra gyapon gibuhat ang wrong. 'Di ba? So, the same with, 'di ba, again, I am very particular in our class with cheating. You know that cheating is wrong and you know what's right. But if you're still doing what is wrong, what difference it makes kung kaibaw ka what's right and wrong and you're still doing the wrong thing, right? So yeah, you're not thinking then kay gipalabi nimo ang what is not right. So again ha, your ego takes action for positive means. positive, all right? Which is of course opposite to your negative, which is wrong. Okay? So next to that, to your ego, you have your super ego. Okay, the first one you have your id, next is your ego, and then you have your super ego. Ganing super ego, guys, we call this as the conscience. Okay, the conscience. It's the conscience that manages the ego according to social standards and morality. Okay, so siya pud ang magkuan. Siya pud ang, di ba si ego, mag-identify siya, kabalo siya sa reality, and mag-identify siya sa what's right and wrong. It's the conscience also that manages your ego. So, kabantay mo anang, I don't know ha, kay wala na siguro may konsensya kung di pa mo magilty nga, nagbuhat mong daotan, nga di mo magilty. Pasabot ana, ano may konsensya, okay? So, the conscience, okay, it manages your ego, so meaning it dictates what's right. And uy kani, this is what you're going to do because this is what is right, and according to the social standard and the moral standard. Okay, so for example, okay, we have here example: the superego can make a person feel guilty if rules are not followed. When there is a conflict between the goals of the id and superego, so kay ang id, it's the instinct, ginapagana ra sa imo ang id, guys, it's the instinct has subconscious mind na nimo. So if there's a conflict, okay, naglalis imo ang id and super ego, so the ego must act as a referee and mediate this conflict. So the ego can deploy various defense mechanisms to prevent it from becoming overwhelmed by anxiety. So what's an example of the id and the super ego, the id and super ego being in conflict? For example, guys, 'di ba one of our id is kanang um sexual drives, okay? Sexual drive. So we wanted to seek pleasure. Now your super ego is saying na we have to follow the moral standard, that we have to preserve ourselves, that we have to practice um safe sex, for instance, and then we should not engage in premarital sex. Ingana. So that's your super ego. And this is your id in conflict. So your ego now will go and, and mediate na, okay. So this is what the id is saying, the subconscious mind nimo, and then this is your conscience is saying. So there are some, so napoy isa, guys, for example, kato aggression. Okay, so you're very angry and you wanted to be violent. Naglagot na kay ko sa nga tanan, you feel so maltreated and whatever, so you wanted to address it via aggression. Okay, so gusto ka manumbag or whatever, mupatay or whatever, and that's the id. Pero your conscience is saying, let's not deal with this one with violence. Let's let the law rule over, and let kanang whatever kanang, let's be calm, and so that's another conflict between your id and superego. Okay? So we will see what are the defense mechanisms that is employed or deployed by your ego to manage this conflict between id and super ego. So we have here, guys, 'di ba, we mentioned that if the id and super ego is in conflict, and if you don't resolve this conflict between the id and the ego, you may experience unhappiness and mental distress. Okay, so dili ka ma-come into peace of what you're going to decide, whether you're going to stay calm or be aggressive, or you're going to um pursue ka ng being conservative or being liberated, like that, in terms of sex and that, for instance. So you might experience unhappiness and mental distress, so you cannot decide what should I do and what should I choose, ana. So thus, in order to understand motivation, you must understand what is in your unconscious memory. So this is the basis for psychoanalysis. Okay, so di ba, it's Sigmund Freud who developed psychoanalysis method to treat mental illness. Okay? Okay, so psychoanalysis, it has its core idea. It believes that each of us has an unconscious part of our self. Okay, we have an unconscious part whose existence, activities, and thoughts are hidden behind mental barrier. Okay, so we have an unconscious part, and it's hidden, and it's kept, guys, it's kept rather. And then mo na siya ang murag we cannot voluntarily remove that. And then behind this barrier are repressed and psychological dangerous thoughts. Okay, so natay mental barrier that we keep it low behind us. Kaya mga negative thought na to, guys, or kanang mga instinct yun na to. It's a it's there's a barrier there, and it's kept there. So those are your dangerous thoughts, and that give rise to unconscious conflicts, so which in turn it can result to psychological and physical symptoms. So it can um develop mga mental or physical nga kana ang mental mo effect siya sa mentally, guys, or mo effect siya napi ubang kuan, guys, kanang depressed ka. Sometimes when you're depressed, you don't know that you're depressed, pero depression na din ang constantly kanang your head is aching, for instance, or you're constantly for instance sick, ana. Kay kung we're stressed, or for example we're depressed, ana, we also it is also manifested in physical. Okay, so I remember before, guys, I was really sad. So I was thinking, actually, sa tinud-anay lang, when I was undergoing a heartache. I thought sadness ba, kanang sadness, it actually reflected physically. I can feel that my chest is tightening, kanang more siya gikumot niya magmanghuot, and that sorry, there's also pain, ana. So kana siya, there's a psychological and physical symptoms. Okay, for if there's conflict in your unconscious mind, okay, or unconscious self, or unconscious part of your. So it is illustrated. Imagine, guys, it is illustrated by Sigmund Freud. This is your unconscious mind. Okay? So look, the tip of the iceberg. Kabanda ka ng the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg, that's your conscious mind. So di ba, guys, super small lang, very little compared to your subconscious. That's just directly below your conscious mind, and then you have your unconscious part, which is a bigger part of your mind. Okay, so kanay mong conscious mind, that's kanang mugana constantly, guys. Okay, so and then below that, just below that, okay, and then that's your subconscious, and then the unconscious. So what's in the unconscious? Okay, in the unconscious mind, guys, this is the small amount of mental activity we know about. We're conscious, okay, we're aware, we know it's the reality that we see. Okay, so those are your thoughts and perceptions. Okay, as your conscious mind. Ang imong subconscious mind, these are the things we could be aware if we wanted to try. Okay, katong things that we can remember if we try harder. Okay, these are the things that we will know if we will just we will make effort. Okay, for example, ana, ang atong memories, okay, that's part of our subconscious mind. Okay, so memories, we cannot remember them always, but if we try harder, or if we wanted, we can remember. Stored knowledge kanang magtuon ka. Syempre, guys, biski pag unsaon nimo nagpuga imong unconscious mind, kung wala sad kay gi-store nga knowledge diha, wasad na mo gawas. So para naa kay mapuga diha sa imong utok, butni sad na, okay? Butni sa nag-stored knowledge diha. Okay, butni sa nag-knowledge. So stored knowledge, that's part of your subconscious mind. Okay, so meaning if you try harder and if you wanted, you can remember that, or you can retrieve that, or you can be aware of that. Okay, so the unconscious part of you, okay, the unconscious mind, these are the things that we are unaware and cannot become aware of. Okay, pwede siyang aware, these are the things, yeah, these are the things that we're unaware, wala ta kabalo, and possibly we will never be aware of. Okay, pwede nga we will never be aware of, for instance, kanang instincts like sexual and aggressive. Okay? For example, kanang ang uban ka bantay mo anang nicing bitaw, guys, nga hala ang hilomon kay kanang si tawag ani ang hilomon kay sikreto raglabok ana. Actually, those people, they don't know that they have those instincts. Okay? So, pero dito, naa dito within them. So wala lang sila na aware, okay? So the id part there, which is the unconscious part of your mind, and it comprises of two instinct. You have the eros and thanatos. Okay, eros and thanatos. So what are examples of this one? You have your fears, unacceptable sexual desires, violent motives, irrational wishes, immoral urges, selfish needs, shameful experiences, and traumatic experiences. Okay, so those are your these are actually the whole thing of your mind according to Sigmund Freud. So this is another illustration guys sa katong sa iceberg nato. So you have the tip of the iceberg, that's the conscious level that composed of your thoughts and perceptions, what you believe, what you think, and then pre-conscious level, that is your subconscious level, your memories and stored knowledge. And then you also have here your unconscious level, which composes your fears and acceptable sexual desires. We already know this one. I just repeat it. Violent motives, immoral urges. I mean, wala, no, na read, sorry. Irrational wishes, selfish needs, shameful experiences, okay? So this composes what's inside your mind. And the big part of there is the unconscious level, which you do not know and is unaware of, okay? Right, so you can still remember we mentioned already that there is defense mechanism that we have in our action, especially if we're feeling something. Okay, so for example, unsa day repression, we have here mechanism of repression. What is repression? Ang kaning repression, it's the unconscious mechanism employed by the ego to keep disturbing or threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. So gi-repress siya, gitago siya guys, okay, gi-hold siya, okay. Unsa example ani? During the Oedipus complex, aggressive thoughts about the same sex parents are repressed. Okay? So example ani guys, kana bitaw dili nimo siya ginapagawas. Okay? So dili nimo siya ginapa dili nimo ginatago nimo siya ba, repress. Okay, repress. So you're hiding it. Okay? So dili nimo siya ginapa come into surface. Okay? So denial, it involves the blocking of external events from awareness. Okay? So deny, so aware ka pero you're not accepting it. Denial, if some situation is just too much to handle, the person refuses to experience it. So no, it's not true like that. So that's denial. Okay, so for example, a smoker may refuse to admit to themselves that smoking is bad for their health. They already know. Okay, kung ingon ninyo guys, denial, they know pero they dili nila i-accept. Okay, the same thing with this example. So dili siya although they know, they deny about it. Okay, projection, this involves individual attributing their own unacceptable thoughts, feeling and motives to another person. So naa sila'y thoughts, feelings and motives kunya ila nang i-project to someone. So for example, you might hate someone. Okay, you might hate someone, but your super ego tells you that such hatred is unacceptable. So when I hate that person because he did something wrong to me, but imong ang super ego nimo, imong konsensya nag-ingon nga, huy dapat dili ka mag hate ana kay that's not good. So you can solve the problem by believing that they actually hate you. Okay, so i-project nimo nga, example, ingani bitaw guys, murag projection nga instead nga ikaw mag-hate sa ila, murag imong gi-project sa imong self nga sila ga-hate sa imo. For example, nakay nga person, dami ka nga, because you know nga it's your conscience, your super ego is telling you that it's not good to hate someone. So inka, I actually do not hate him. It's just that he hates me, so wala ko mahimo. So dili na lang jud ko muduol niya nga na. So morgi project mo ba nga instead of you, siya kintahay ana. So displacement, it's actually satisfying an impulse like aggression with a substitute object. Okay, so, for example, someone who is frustrated by his or her boss at work may go home and kick the dog. So, displacement. So, kanang you're not you're not okay with this person or this thing, So instead nga sa imuha sa iyahan nimo ipagawas, i-displace nimo siya didto nimo siya ipagawas sa iro ba kay sipaon or ang imuha ba kahang haligi imong sumbagon ana so na-displace ba so instead of expressing your sa ni katong negative nga kanang emotion to that direct person imuha siyang displace imo siyang gibalhin ba imuhang ang imong action supposedly nga dapat towards that person you change it to another pwedeng another probably another person lagi hapon or munang violent kay sa suko kay ka sa na siya nga na guys like for example stress sa work kasi kasabaan sa boss pag-abot sa balay sige check pangasaba sa iyang mga anak or sige niya kasabaan niyang asawa or bana baka ana so that's displacement dapat ang ana siya nga action niya is towards the boss for instance pero didto niya gi-express to laki. Okay, so laki, like a dog, like an animal, a thing, or another person. Na. Ang regression karon, this is a movement back in psychological time when one is faced with crisis. So for example, a child may begin to suck their thumb again or wet the bed when they need to spend some time in the hospital. So for example, naka-experience sila something that is stressful. So mura sila mo regress ba, mura bag mo balik sa pagkabata or mobalik sa time where kana mo na-regress from the word regression kanang ning backward okay ning kana ni backward siya in other words okay so ang iyang mga actions before ni balik ana so sublimation ang kaning sublimation guys this is satisfying an impulse like for example an aggression with a substitute object. Okay, in a socially acceptable way. Okay, what's different with sublimation and displacement? Ang displacement, guys, okay, pwede na siyang object or person or animal or whatever. So, dito ka magpasakit, dito ka magpagawas sa imong frustration. Ang sublimation, gipagawas nimo siya to another object or whatever, pero which is socially acceptable. Okay? Which is kanang pwede lang in a manner nga dili ka maingon nga that's bad ana. So example, ang sports. Okay, for example, sports is an example of putting an emotion like your aggression into something that is constructive. So unsa may mga type of sports that you can actually um, imong mga impulse or kabantay mo nang kuan guys kabantay mo nang moingon sila nga if stress ka or angry ka or kuan ka go play a game kay dito nimo ipagawas imong frustration ana sometimes kanang yung dili lang energy imong ipagawas pati imuhag yung violence like kanang boxing ana for instance wrestling muay thai whatever di muay thai muay thai ba akong muay thai nga ginauna kay massage but anyway kana yeah kato siya guys no that's these are the following mechanisms that one can experience and these are also the actions no example of the actions so it can your ego can actually deploy kanang ego ha conscious nimo nga kwan can deploy various defense mechanism to prevent it from becoming overwhelmed by anxiety so murag naa siya ibuhaton para maka-release siya okay or naa siya ibuhaton para dili siya ma-overwhelm okay so kana. Alright, so these are example of your defense mechanism. So finally, that ends our part three, guys, of week 3 and 4, the antecedents of historical antecedents of science and technology. So I hope you're going to watch the other video as well. Giuna actually na ko ning part 3, but I'll try to record the other part 1 and part 2 as well. So have a great day, everyone. Please do note that we will be having quiz for this one. So make sure if you are not interested in listening to my recorded video, you can actually just read the material, right? Bye, everyone. God bless you all.